eye pressure, your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Paid for by Estella's Pharma.
My name is Dale Pazinski. I volunteer with United Way to help the homeless in my community learn computer skills and build a basic resume. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM, Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today, we're talking about the use of life estates and your primary residence. Todd, what are the pitfalls associated with creating a life estate when you transfer the remainder interest to your children?
Yeah, this is the most common way people create life estates. It seems easy, it seems simple, but it's not the best way to create a life estate. Once you put your children's name on the deed, you give up a lot of control. Like you can't change your mind later if you want to leave it to one child versus another who might be taking care of you later. You have problems if you want to go to sell it, right? You might have the right to live there, but if you want to go to sell it, you're going to need the permission of the children in order to sign off on the remainder interest of the deed. And then even if they do sell it and you get their permission, a larger chunk of the proceeds are going to end up in the hands of the child rather than you. That creates adverse income tax consequences to the child, plus you, who sold the house, might need the money to buy another house or a downsized house or move, all of which create problems. Never mind creditor problems for the children while they're living. Folks, don't do the life estate this way because it seems to create more trouble than it's worth.
Learn how you can avoid probate, eliminate estate taxes, keep your money in your family, and protect your assets from the nursing home. Request this brand new guide from Cushing & Dolan. It's called Calculating the Consequences of a Life Estate. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can simply request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. If you're looking for the perfect place for your next vacation, look no further than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act fast and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Voted one of the top 2025 Caribbean destinations by U.S. News and World Report, America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
It happens all over Massachusetts. In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We pride ourselves on being able to support veterans in their time of greatest need, ensuring they receive the protections they deserve. For over 100 years, the DAV of Massachusetts has helped thousands of veterans with housing, transportation, and medical assistance, and you can help too. Please visit dav5k.boston and make a donation today. That's dav5k.boston.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Mike Armstrong and Paul Lane. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Mike Armstrong and Paul Lane.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to the Financial Exchange. We've got markets that are back in flip-flop mode after 2 days of solid gains, Friday of last week and Monday of this week. You've got all three major indices selling off, with the NASDAQ off the worst, about 1 3/4%. We've got Google's parent company, Alphabet, in the news, potentially making its largest acquisition ever. Apparent innovations and movement being made on the electric battery side out of China. We'll be covering that as well. But the first story we've got to dig into here on a Tuesday morning is tomorrow's Federal Reserve meeting. Jay Powell will be taking the stage at 2:30 p.m. to answer questions about what the Fed is thinking about this economy. And for probably the first time in 2 or 3 years, I don't think investors are going to be hanging on his every word in the same way that they have been for this period of high inflation. Not that people will be ignoring it, but frankly, what's coming out of the White House right now is far more relevant to the stock market and its performance recently.
I would say that this is probably the last couple months, right? This meeting is certainly one that there won't be a tremendous amount of attention paid to it. And I believe, when was our last one? Was it 6 weeks prior, I guess, right?
Yeah, so 6 weeks prior, right around beginning of the year.
Yeah, so I think
another one.
Similar sort of sentiment there. But I agree with you. The overall takeaway is that this used to be sort of our headline event for our shows, is the focus on what the results of the Federal Reserve meeting will be for Thursday. It will be something that, of course, we'll cover, and we will be parsing through to look at any sort of commentary that the Fed may have on the economy and thoughts. But ultimately, what I would anticipate is very little. What incentive do they have to really show much of their hand? They should keep it tight-lipped and keep it as very fluid from a policy perspective. I don't really see any reason for the Fed to make waves. We're battling enough waves economically as it is with the uncertainty on tariffs and other fronts. There's no reason for the Fed to really rock the boat and not stick to sort of the party line of we'll see as more data comes out.
Yeah, and I do expect that to mainly dominate the conversation. The Fed is widely anticipated to be keeping interest rates at the current 4.25% to 4.5%. Led by Scott Bessent from the White House, it seems that they are not facing immense pressure today to move that. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary for the Trump administration, has been much more focused on that 10-year Treasury yield, which the Federal Reserve does not control, does not move. And the reason he's focused there is because he wants to see, frankly, borrowing costs for average Americans improve. He cares a little bit less about borrowing costs for banks, which is what the Fed really moves around here when we talk about things, the short end of the curve. far more influential when it comes to asset prices like the stock market, far less influential when it comes to housing affordability, car affordability, things along those lines. And so I think the White House has appropriately focused in on that type of interest rate instead of the Fed funds rate. I don't think that will allow the Fed to escape blame should this economy start turning into recession, right? They are an easy scapegoat, and President Trump has a history of blaming the Fed when things are not going his way. So I would anticipate that they could face some of that, but they are largely not today. I think one of the questions that I'll be interested to hear an answer on is they always get asked the question of, where do you put the balance of risks to the economy today? And for the last several years, it has been more of a risk of inflation than higher unemployment. And that's slowly been shifting, and most recently they've called those equally weighted risks, right? They're as concerned about an uptick in unemployment and a recession as they are about a resurgence in inflation. And my question would be, where are you now? Right? I mean, I don't think that anybody should assume that inflation is done with, especially in the face of rising tariffs. But quite honestly, I'm personally a fair bit more concerned about unemployment and, where business uncertainty has been going in terms of polls that you see from CEOs and their hiring plans. And so does the Federal Reserve view one of those as a more significant risk? Because that's likely to drive their next decision when it comes to policy, right? They're not doing anything today, but I think this economy is anything but stagnant, right? It is certainly moving quite rapidly, and I suspect that we will see changes to the state of both inflation and unemployment over the course of the next several months, should it continue this way.
Just such a awful job to have, Mike. every time we do these segments, I'm like, I'm so glad I don't have a job at the Federal Reserve. Not like I have anywhere near the qualifications for it, but it's just so challenging. I have to give them credit. They did a really great job last year in terms of navigating the inflationary environment that we saw in 2022 and 2023. You can absolutely beat them up for being late to the game to react to the inflationary pressures that we saw in 22 and leaving their quantitative easing programs in for too long. But last year we were complimentary of the efforts that they had to navigate a difficult environment. But the challenges are only picking up in 2025, making things more difficult because it's going to be so hard to determine if you were to see inflationary price increases and a shock to the system, is that going to be something to bring up their favorite phrase that they got beat up on big time, transitory, which is what they used of the supply shocks in 2022 that turned out to not be so transitory? Or is it going to be something that's a longer term problem? You also have the fears of economic growth potentially slowing too. It's just a really challenging environment to navigate. It just, the level of difficulty, it seems like, just gets more and more increase for these Federal Reserve members.
As I said, fortunately, I have not seen much talk of the Federal Reserve from the White House, and I suspect that may continue for a period of time. But I do want to talk about the Federal Reserve's independence because every single meeting they've had since the election of Donald Trump has been focused on the Fed's independence and how they are going to go about maintaining it. And so the question is, why does that matter, right? Why do we need an independent Fed? And the answer, the easy answer, is go look at a few countries that don't have an independent Fed, such as China, such as Turkey, and how their policies shape out and what works and what doesn't work there. But the general answer is that the Federal Reserve controls the money supply. And when the money supply goes up, asset prices go up. Go take a look at 2020, right? You pour a whole bunch of money into the economy, which Congress did, which the Federal Reserve allowed to happen, and asset prices went through the roof. You didn't immediately have inflation, right? We weren't talking about huge inflation numbers in 2020 when the money supply went up, but it did eventually contribute to a whole degree of higher inflation. And maybe that was purely a result of COVID, maybe it was supply chain related, but
probably a mixture of all
of those things. The problem is that in the very short term, the Fed's actions don't really control much on the way of inflation, right? We talk about these very technical details, but when you go take a look at the actual results, they're much more in control over inflation over a 10-year time period, right? When you look at how they influence the money supply and the direction of things, 10 years later, you start to see the picture shape out where you say, oh, yeah, money supply increased here, and look how much higher inflation was over that course of the next 10 years. And therefore, you have a central bank that's independent because in the short term, what the Federal Reserve does impact the economy. It drives asset prices up. It drives the stock market up historically. You have a lot of influence over what can happen in things that might get you reelected. But the tail risk of that, as we've experienced here over the last few years, could be really burdensome inflation. And if you are an elected official seeking reelection, you care a little bit less about what inflation looks like a decade from now and a lot more about what the stock market looks like over the next 2 years, for example.
And on the other end, the Fed sometimes has to be the bad guy. They have to
take away the punch bowl.
Exactly. Yeah. They have to come in, and that really, if you think about the last, presidential term, the mismanagement of inflation under President Biden likely was the major factor that led to him not getting reelected. And as a result of that, you had the Federal Reserve sort of as part of that equation because they were the ones going in there and saying we need to raise rates to bring down inflation. Now, they were the bad guy doing that. No one likes to see variable lines of credit increase for borrowers out there. And we've seen the impact on the housing market too, where a mortgage sits at maybe 6.5%, 7% for a 30-year fixed mortgage. If you still had the same levels of 3 or 4% that we were sitting at previously and Fed funds rate near zero, we would be in a runaway inflation environment. They have to be the bad guys. So that is another aspect of it that is so important to keep them apolitical. Because if you're going to have to serve as a, taker away of the punch bowl, then it is better to keep that separate from a president who wants to be reelected or wants to be viewed in a favorable manner by its constituents.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, White House officials can't stop talking about recession, so we're going to talk about it as well. Piece from the New York Times here on recession maybe being worth the cost. What do they mean when they say that, and what would it mean for you? That's next here on the Financial Exchange.
This is your home for the most comprehensive coverage of the economy and the trends on Wall Street. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. If you're looking for the perfect place for your next vacation, look no further than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act fast and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Voted one of the top 2025 Caribbean destinations by U.S. News and World Report, America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025. Life estates carry a higher risk of income tax penalties and hidden gift issues. And while they can be beneficial in some cases, if you use one, you need to be aware of the pitfalls they may cause. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law and have nearly 40 years of experience helping families with their estate planning. Their new guide, called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates, can help you make the right decisions about how to protect your assets from probate and the nursing home. Life estates are not simple documents and can create the potential for you to lose control of your estate. So if you haven't done your planning yet, now's the time to learn about the effects that life estates can have when it comes to protecting your assets. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and request their new guide called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates. That's 866-848-5699. Or request the guide online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Developing the right financial strategy can be complicated, especially in today's economic climate. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. One of the most important pieces to this puzzle is the trust you have with the advisor you choose to work with. We've written a brand new guide called What Can an Advisor Do for Me? In it, we discuss a host of reasons why picking the right one can be critical to your peace of mind as you age. A financial advisor advisor is much more than someone who simply manages your money. A financial advisor can help you understand the strengths and weaknesses of your portfolio, the various changes you may need to make to achieve your goals, and the way you may be able to protect your assets as you enter your retirement years. Call us right now at 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide today. That number again is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Wall Street Watch, a full update on the market's performance to date. Weekdays at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts, and you can register right now for this year's 5K at Castle Island by visiting dav5k.boston. The event will sell out again, so if you're interested in participating, now's the time to reserve your spot. Come out and help support our great American heroes by joining us for the DAV 5K. Visit dav5k.boston to register or to make a donation today. That's dav5k.boston.
If I think about the economic policies of the Trump administration so far, and let's caveat all this with it hasn't even been 2 months yet. Right? It's been fewer than 2 months.
Feels longer than that.
And we are still trying to sort this out. But if I think them through, the two major things that I think of, A, are tariffs, and B, are government reforms focused on spending and taxes, right? That's where it comes down to. I think a lot of it's about efficiency and plenty more about DEI and other focuses of the administration, but that's not economics. I'm focused on these two. And the administration has been making an argument, Scott Besson has been making it, President Trump has been making it, many others have been as well, that when laid out concisely, I think makes a lot of sense. And so I'm going to attempt to lay out the economic reform and government reform side of that equation. Put simply, the United States government, over the course of the last 30 years, but especially over the course of the last few, has been spending like it is going out of style. If you take a look at government spending, deficits as a percentage of GDP over the course of the last few years, they've been averaging somewhere around 3%, which many would have said years ago was unsustainable. But over the course of the post-COVID period, accelerated to something like 6%.
Right.
And so, in my opinion at least, an economy that might have faced recession in 2022, 2023, 2024, that was largely sidestepped because, frankly, it's tough to have a downturn in unemployment in the market when there is so much government spending pouring into the economy still, right? It didn't take, in 2023 and 2024, it might not have taken the form of stimulus payments, but, you had the Giant Chips Act, you had the Inflation Reduction Act, and all of these things led to big U.S. government deficits. And the incoming administration has said, look, that is not a sustainable path to be on, right? If you are worried about the full faith and credit of the United States government, if you are concerned about, long-term inflation, that needs to be reined in. And I have to say, I agree on that entirely. And I don't know if you do it by cutting government spending, by raising taxes, but the net deficit, right, the net spending number from the United States government probably should not be sustained at 6% a year, because I think ultimately it leads to a crisis at some point in the future. No idea what that looks like. I think better trained people than I am would have a better idea of it than I would. And in my opinion, it may even be worth going through a recession in order to deal with that problem.
I would agree. I would agree with all those facts there.
Like, again, the problem with what you're describing here is if it were to continue at that pace, someday it might lead to a much larger disruption. And I think that's what Scott Bessent has pointed out is, hey, I'd rather deal with a short-term recession to get government spending under control than 15 years from now have a bunch of nations that no longer want to buy U.S. debt because it's not as powerful and strong as it once was. It's no longer the reserve currency, and that's the fight that we are trying to head off with our changes to government policy when it comes to deficits.
Agreed. The problem, which you probably were getting to, is this idea that while that in its essence I couldn't be more in agreement with, this idea that we need to get the deficit under control, that we have way too much debt as a country. I think many people would agree to that. There's very few people who would disagree with the levels of debt right now being tenable.
Whether people are willing to go through a recession to deal with that problem, that's a different question. But I think most people would agree with that fundamental piece of, hey, I wouldn't manage my household this way. You probably shouldn't manage a country this way. And it needs to be addressed.
But from a policy perspective, what you've seen, and again, you're right, it has been a very short span of time here, but the efforts of the Department of Government Efficiency, the areas that they are targeting, while the message and the idea behind it, or at least you and I agree with this idea, cutting down government spending, I'm behind that. But the items that you have to go after are big ticket items that no one really feels comfortable going with from a political perspective. That's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid has been one that's been bantered about, and defense spending. Those are four of the biggest areas that you need to target. Those have not been touched. They're very difficult to touch. And then you combine that with this idea that we're coming up on the looming deadline for the 2017 tax cuts. All of us have collectively benefited from lower tax rates over the course of the last 8 years or so. Those are set to sunset at the end of 2025.
Yep.
If nothing were to happen, they were to revert back to their prior levels. However, a lot of the discussion around this administration coming in is keeping those in and reinstituting them for a longer period of time. Just doing that, just the signature of instituting those in for a longer period of time, as much as you and I would benefit, and I would love to see the rates where they are because they've been really low relative to historical norms, it's going to add trillions of dollars to the deficit. So in one end, you have actions being taken to cut down on the deficit by cutting out some areas of the government that there probably is excess spending. But that's like looking at your household budget, and let's say someone spends $100,000 and you're starting to target, well, maybe here or there, I won't go after.
Got to cut out the avocado toast.
I won't, get coffee, twice a week. And instead of ignoring, your mortgage payment and your car payments, like that's kind of the efforts that we've seen recently, particularly if you're going to reinstitute the tax cuts.
I'm going to remain open-minded, right? I'll judge this in a few years when we see where it goes. I agree with you to this point. Like, you cut 10,000 employees from Social Security. Yeah, I mean, that's not going to do the same thing as making giant cuts to Medicare and the program of Social Security itself. And so is it actually meaningful? We'll have to wait and see. The problem that you've seen in markets has not been related to that to this point, right? You have not seen a big uptick in unemployment to this point in reaction to that. The problem that you have seen in markets has everything to do with tariffs. And when you layer on that side of the equation, that's where I start to get lost, and that's where I think American CEOs and others are starting to get lost as well, is what role do tariffs play in this overall new view of the economy? Is it that they are there to reduce the deficits further? Is it that they are there to drive a better bargain on trade because we've been getting screwed over on trade by our global partners for the last 30 years, 50 years? Is it to bring jobs back to the United States, and what will that do to help with deficits and economic growth over the long term? Those, I think, are the open questions that just has a lot of people, and clearly a lot of market participants, as displayed by today's sell-off, confused as to where exactly all of this goes. We got to take a quick break. We're going to have Wall Street Watch when we return, and then more tariff talk, especially when it comes to automakers, next here on the Financial Exchange.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
If you're looking for the perfect place for your next vacation, look no further than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act fast and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Voted one of the top 2025 Caribbean destinations by U.S. News and World Report, America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025. Life estates are complicated, and they can cause problems if you're using them to protect your assets from the nursing home. Don't risk losing control over your estate. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and get their new guide called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online from their website, legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans in their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Managing money can be overwhelming. Investments, retirement, taxes, where do you even start? This is Susan Powers, and today I'm joined by Michael Armstrong, co-host of the Financial Exchange and the president of Armstrong Advisory Group, to break it down. First question, Mike. What's the biggest reason someone should work with a financial advisor?
Yeah, it's a fair question. Like, a financial advisor can help you set and reach financial goals, whether that's saving for retirement, buying a home, protecting your estate. They can create personalized strategies that align with your income and expenses and risk tolerance. Plus, financial planning just isn't one and done. Typically you'll adjust your plan as life changes. And so having somebody that's knowledgeable alongside there that can guide you through those different stages of life is really important.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Now, what about people who think that they can manage their finances and investments on their own? What do they miss out on?
Look, I'm not blind to this. Some people can, and it requires a bit of an honest self-assessment. But if you're not looking at key factors like tax strategies, investment risk, long-term planning, those are areas where financial advisors can really help to come in, maximize returns while keeping an eye on risk-adjusted returns, optimizing asset allocation, and just minimizing those unnecessary risks that we see so frequently taken by folks. So there can be a place for one in people's lives, but it's not a one for everybody.
If you want professional financial guidance, reach out to the Armstrong Advisory Group today to request your free copy of our new guide, What Can can a financial advisor do for me? Call 800-393-4001 to start securing your financial future. That number again, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up.
Because we have something better.
Stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
Time now for Wall Street Watch, a complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, after 2 consecutive winning days, markets are in the red today, led by a sell-off in the tech sector as the Fed begins their 2-day monetary policy meeting, followed by a press conference from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell tomorrow afternoon at 2:30. At the moment, the Dow is down by 0.4% or 178 points. S&P 500 down about 1% or 55 points. And the tech-heavy NASDAQ down by 1.7% or 302 points. Russell 2000 is down by 0.8%. 10-year Treasury yield is flat at 4.30%, and crude oil edging higher, trading at $67.68 a barrel. Big news from the tech sector this morning after Google signed a definitive agreement to acquire cybersecurity startup Wiz for $32 billion in an all-cash deal. Wiz previously walked away from a $23 billion deal by Google last summer. Alphabet shares down by 4%. Meanwhile, NVIDIA shares down by 3%. Ahead of a keynote speech from CEO Jensen Huang at its GTC Developers Conference, where he is expected to showcase a new version of the company's Blackwell AI chips. Elsewhere, China's top domestic EV maker BYD reached a record high in Hong Kong after the company unveiled a technology that can charge an electric car in merely 5 minutes. More volatility for Tesla, with that stock down another 5% after analysts at RBC Capital Markets reduced their price target on the stock, citing increasing competition. Lucid's up by 12% after Morgan Stanley upgraded the stock to equal weight, noting the EV maker's AI strategy could be a positive catalyst. And Goldman Sachs upgraded Ralph Lauren to buy from neutral after the bank said the fashion company has limited exposure to tariffs versus its peers. That stock is up by about 1/3%. I'm Tucker Sullivan. That's Wall Street Watch.
Paul, is a bit off script, but this morning I was listening to an interview with I believe he was a professor of economics or maybe business from Duke University. And he pointed something out which I've heard before, and I pulled some data on it, about the United States being relatively insulated from trade compared to other countries. And what I mean by that is when you look at the United States GDP, add up everything the United States produces, sells, services, add it all together, and you look at trade in particular, it's a relatively small portion compared to other countries. So trade, imports plus exports divided by GDP gives you a percentage of GDP that trade makes up. And in the United States in 2023, I've heard sources as high as 27%, but the data I have from the World Bank puts the United States at 25% of GDP. Mm-hmm. There are 2 countries in the world that's lower, Ethiopia and Sudan. So not exactly global competitors on the GDP
Glad you didn't ask
scale.
me to guess those.
When you go compare that to other big economic powerhouses, and I kind of doubt the data coming from China, but the estimates there, 37% of their economy comes from trade. A giant like Germany, for example, another developed country, 83% trade related from GDP. Canada, obviously being talked about, 67%. Mexico, 73%. You can have more than 100% of your GDP coming from trade too, right? You can have some countries where trade makes up such a huge value of the economy. These are usually like Singapore and other countries like that, where they're trading very high value goods, but not realizing a whole bunch of that in their GDP. But I bring it up to say that, the president is correct when he says that, look, we are perhaps getting, screwed over by trade, but honestly, our economy is not all that reliant on trade.
We're
can make
services-based economy.
We're a services-based economy.
What services is that?
I don't know, but we're a services-based economy, but B, a geographically and very large country that has the ability to grow things domestically and sell things domestically. And yes, when you think about the value of high-tech services, for example, Google, Amazon, the likes of them, that being U.S. businesses, that helps as well. What this ignores, however, and why I'm trying to make a point here about, hey, this might not be that bad for the economy were tariffs to be in place, but it might be very bad for the stock market. And I think it comes back to, once again, separating those two. The economy is not the stock market, and the stock market is not the economy. Let's take just purely trade with Canada and think about the companies that are most heavily affected by trade tariffs on Canadian goods, right? If you have tariffs of 25% on anything imported from Canada into the United States, and those tariffs get paid by the company that's doing the importing, because that's how tariffs work. It's not paid by the Canadian company that's exporting the good. It's paid by the American company or the foreign company that's doing business in the United States that's importing the good. Think about for a minute who those companies are that are doing the importing for a moment here, and you can understand why it's creating stock market volatility. It's Ford. It's Stellantis. It's General Motors. It is food growers. It's a whole bunch of U.S. domiciled companies that just happen to do a lot of business in Canada. And that's in part what the president's trying to change, is he doesn't want those U.S.-based companies doing business there. But I think speaks to some of the confusion that we're seeing out there. Like, why are European stocks up 10% this year? Why are Canadian stocks doing well in the face of tariffs? And the answer is, it might be really bad for their economy. Mm-hmm. Canada's pretty much been in a recession the last few years. But when you think about Canada's largest public companies,
Bauer, the hockey company,
the Royal Bank of Canada,
yep,
not doing a whole lot of exports to the United States. Shopify, it's an entirely service-based payment system. Toronto Dominion Bank, TD Bank. Enbridge Energy, okay, yeah, you've got one there where they are going to be subject to tariffs. But you take a look at this, and Thomson Reuters, these are not big companies that are exporting a whole bunch of stuff to the United States that are going to face massive increase in tariffs. When you think about which companies are going to face that, it's largely U.S. companies that happen to be doing business in these foreign countries. So, again, it was an interesting conversation that I overheard and kind of led me down this path of why would U.S. stocks, which I don't know where they are today, but year to date down like 4%, whereas you've got the rest of the developed world up a good 10% in the stock market. And I think this largely explains it a lot, is the companies who are most subjected to tariffs under these plans are by and large U.S. companies that are going to face higher prices.
Well, I take it even one step further, where it's the U.S. consumer that ultimately is going to feel the brunt of that, and that can impact the earnings of all these publicly traded companies out there. If the consumer's budget is constrained by the fact that vehicles are going to potentially cost more, are going to see an uptick in price, or T-shirts or whatever item you want to throw out there, overall consumption could decrease, and that's why you could see a challenging earnings environment for some of these public companies out there. I think that's the largest contributory factor, amongst others on the stock market itself. Is it was a very overpriced market too. We've covered that also.
Look, and I'm not standing here saying do or don't do this. One thing I will say is I think the back and forth uncertainty on it, I think that's a bad idea. Like I think conclusively, if you have tariffs in place, I don't know what the impact is going to be. I don't think anybody does, and if anybody's telling you they do, then they're full of it, because we haven't seen tariffs of this sort since the 1940s. So nobody actually knows how it's all going to play out. Will the jobs return to the United States at a higher degree? Will we see a manufacturing boom in the United States? I'm open to the concept of it.
I'm not even sure if I am. I'm highly skeptical, I should say.
Yeah, but again, I'm not certain, and I'm not saying that never do it.
Right.
What I am saying is that very clearly what CEOs are telling you now is, I'd be okay with the tariffs, but I can't deal with the uncertainty of whether or not I will have tariffs. And that's what I think this administration is going to need to address, and address quickly, because that's the piece that is tougher to recover from, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you develop so much uncertainty that businesses are simply unwilling to spend money, then you get a real problem in the economy that's tougher to resolve from by just waving away tariffs or waving away some change. Then it becomes tougher to rebuild the economic success story.
Yeah, to play the devil's advocate, to me, expressing skepticism as to whether or not manufacturing will be brought back domestically with some of the tariff agenda, there needs to be clear, concise plan as to what the tariffs are going to look like for companies, to your point, to invest domestically to build up manufacturing capability. They need to be assured that it is something that is going to be worth investing in. And if the policy is going to continually change, then you're just going to have companies withhold investment until they get a clear sense of what it's going to look like. And that's what this comes down to, is getting a little more certainty here.
Quick break. When we come back, big changes over at the Social Security Administration in terms of staffing. What has that meant so far for recipients and those going to file? Quick break. We'll be covering that next here on the Financial Exchange.
If you missed any of today's show, catch up whenever you want on our YouTube page. Find daily show segments and full shows. Just go to youtube.com and search for The Financial Exchange. This is your home for breaking business and financial news. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Life estates carry a higher risk of income tax penalties and hidden gift issues. And while they can be beneficial in some cases, if you use one, you need to be aware of the pitfalls they may cause. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law and have nearly 40 years of experience helping families with their estate planning. Their new guide, called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates, can help you make the right decisions about how to protect your assets from probate and the nursing home. Life estates are not simple documents and can create the potential for you to lose control of your estate. So if you haven't done your planning yet, now's the time to learn about the effects that life estates can have when it comes to protecting your assets. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and request their new guide called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates. That's 866-848-5699. Or request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. If you're looking for the perfect place for your next vacation, look no further than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act fast and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Voted one of the top 2025 Caribbean destinations by U.S. News and World Report, America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
Developing the right financial strategy can be complicated, especially in today's economic climate. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. One of the most important pieces to this puzzle is the trust you have with the advisor you choose to work with. We've written a brand new guide called What Can an Advisor Do for Me? In it, we discuss a host of reasons why picking the right one can be critical to your peace of mind as you age. A financial advisor is much more than someone who simply manages your money. A financial advisor can help you understand the strengths and weaknesses of your portfolio, the various changes you may need to make to achieve your goals, and the way you may be able to protect your assets as you enter your retirement years. Call us right now at 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide today. That number again is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, the grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Hi, I'm Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and soldiers' homes and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for both single veterans and those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Miss any of the show? Catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John, and if you act now, you can take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix, experience a vibe like no other, and get a $250 per person airline credit when you book a minimum 5-night stay at participating hotels. Go to visitusvi.com and use code VIBE2025 to reserve your trip today. Take your next vacation to St. Croix in America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. Go to visitusvi.com and use code VIBE2025 to book your trip. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
There's been a lot going on at Social Security Administration over the last few months. We had the Social Security Fairness Act that went into place back in January, obviously the normal cost of living adjustments. Elon Musk called Social Security a Ponzi scheme. There's been job cuts at the administration. I think for the average person, it can be a little bit tough to navigate, hey, what's the real news here that might affect me, and what's the noise when it comes to Social Security. So let's start with the easiest one first before we move into the tougher stuff. The Social Security Fairness Act eliminated what's called the government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision. If you worked for a government in a job that did not require you to pay into Social Security, that could be the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, a local town, parts of the federal government, or even a foreign country. Let's say you worked in the United Kingdom for a while and receive a government pension from there, that could offset your Social Security. Those rules are now gone. You are not subject to that anymore, and many recipients have started receiving payments already on the calculation of what they are owed from 2024 and now into 2025. Elon Musk calling Social Security a Ponzi scheme and talking about cuts there. Legitimate thing to be worried about, or just kind of loud talk that we should ignore?
Loud talk that we should ignore.
Yeah, that's kind of my conclusion as well. Like, I think that, he will continue to attack it from a staffing perspective, but it doesn't sound like Elon Musk has a great solution to fixing what he described as a Ponzi scheme, and any changes to it must go through Congress. So I'm not immensely concerned about Elon Musk forcing changes to the Social Security payment system or eligibility for Social Security.
We can all agree that changes need to be made to it, but him specifically,
just not going to be led by Elon.
No,
and I don't think his perspective of it being a Ponzi scheme is going to be influential on members of Congress.
No.
The tougher question to answer is customer service. And look, for a lot of people, they never need customer service from Social Security, but sometimes you do. And here's where it's getting a little bit tricky. Like the Market Watch here interviewed somebody who is dealing with an employer that screwed up their pay systems and either didn't record their payments into Social Security for a couple of years, or just didn't make the payments into Social Security, and so it looks like they didn't work for 2 years, and their earnings records all screwed up, and they have to supply W-2s and a whole bunch of basically proof that, hey, I did work, I did pay into Social Security for these 2 years, even if my employer didn't cover it. The answer that people are hearing is good luck, get in line, is kind of the answer on that one. And I think that's the message that I have for anyone trying to interact with folks. There's some scarier ones too. Like that would be concerning and annoying, but you would eventually get the problem solved if you had the documentation on it and they would pay you the money that you were owed. The other ones that I'm hearing from, like, hey, somebody hacked my Social Security account and changed my direct deposit. So far, they've been able to respond to that quickly and lock your account down, but those are the ones that I get worried about because that's a pretty common scam, right? Hey, can I redirect someone's tax return or someone's Social Security payment to a different bank account and take those funds? Those are the ones that you do want Social Security employees responding to quickly. And in at least one case, they did, but I am hearing more and more that getting an appointment with Social Security is now taking weeks. There's no real ability to drop into a Social Security office, and I think that's frustrating some beneficiaries.
Medicare is another one just to kind of be aware of when you're applying for it. Usually you want to look to try and apply for it anywhere from 2 to 3 months prior to you reaching that magic age 65. So that's one thing to note there. If you have lesser staffing there, the processing times on those applications could slow. So it's something that you may want to make sure that you're on top of and not leave to the last minute.
We know that you have questions about Social Security, and when there are big changes going on at a program this big to people's financial security and future, it can add some apprehension into that decision-making process. And frankly, I think it leaves people open to making the wrong decision when it comes to Social Security out of fear about the program, uncertainty about its customer service, and just how it's going to wind up. If you're wondering how you should change your Social Security plan or how you should have a Social Security plan for the future, please give the folks at Armstrong Advisory Group a call. We work with our clients every day on questions like pensions and Social Security and how they will contribute to their larger financial plan, and really how to take advantage of those programs to make them work best for you. If you have questions like that, give us a ring at 800-393-4001. Happy to talk with you about your specifics. That number again for the Armstrong Advisory Group, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Amazon planning to reshape their Alexa device business. The story with Amazon's Alexa devices has been for years that they are going to produce them and sell them at basically no profit. You talk about what are the small ones, the dots that are around
Echo.
people's houses and these devices. The idea initially was, hey, if we pop these into people's homes, A, we'll learn about them substantially, and B, maybe it'll make them, more interested in buying Amazon goods in the short term, right? Like if I can just talk to my Amazon speaker and say, blah, 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 order me new toothpaste, and then maybe I'll be a more frequency buyer on these platforms. The answer is that hasn't worked out well. They've had no real uptake when it comes to things like the Amazon Music platform that is integrated into these, at least in the paid versions of those things. And so they're taking a second hard look at this business to see how they go about monetizing it and offering new products. And I'm here to say that I just don't know that Amazon can do anything on the smart device space that I'd be personally willing to pay for. The Ring video doorbells is close as I get, and they bought that business. They didn't develop it in-house.
Right.
That's Amazon.
It
Google,
is.
Right? Yeah. I do pay for that service. I pay them a monthly monitoring fee. I find that stuff useful. But when it comes to these smart devices in my home, I just don't know what perfection they're going to get to that I would actually shell out money for it. Quick break, but a lot more to cover, including big innovation potentially out of a Chinese automaker. That's next here on the Financial Exchange.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
Life estates are complicated, and they can cause problems if you're using them to protect your assets from the nursing home. Don't risk losing control over your estate. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and get their new guide called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online from their website, legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans in their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network. WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM. Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
Managing money can be overwhelming. Investments, retirement, taxes, where do you even start? This is Susan Powers, and today I'm joined by Michael Armstrong, co-host of the Financial Exchange and the president of Armstrong Advisory Group, to break it down. First question, Mike. What's the biggest reason someone should work with a financial advisor?
Yeah, it's a fair question. Like, a financial advisor can help you set and reach financial goals, whether that's saving for retirement, buying a home, protecting your estate. They can create personalized strategies that align with your income and expenses and risk tolerance. Plus, financial planning just isn't one and done. Typically, you'll adjust your plan as life changes. And so having somebody that's knowledgeable alongside there that can guide you through those different stages of life is really important.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Now, what about people who think that they can manage their finances and investments on their own? What do they miss out on?
Look, I'm not blind to this. Some people can, and it requires a bit of an honest self-assessment. But if you're not looking at key factors like tax strategies, investment risk, long-term planning, those are areas where financial advisors can really help to come in, maximize returns while keeping an eye on risk-adjusted returns, optimizing asset allocation, and just minimizing those unnecessary risks that we see so frequently taken by folks. So there can be a place for one in people's lives, but it's not a one for everybody.
If you want professional financial guidance, reach out to the Armstrong Advisory Group today to request your free copy of our new guide, What Can a Financial Advisor Do for Me? Call 800-393-4001 to start securing your financial future. That number again, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. If you're looking for the perfect place for your next vacation, look no further than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act fast and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Voted one of the top 2025 Caribbean destinations by U.S. News and World Report, America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
A sound estate plan has many layers. In some cases, using a life estate can be a beneficial piece of your plan, but they also can be problematic. Call Cushing & Dolan, the experts in elder law, at 866-848-5699 and request their new guide called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates. Building the proper estate plan not only protects your assets from the nursing home, but also helps you avoid probate and potentially eliminates estate taxes. So be aware of the many problems life estates can cause before you create one. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and request this new guide. In it, you'll learn about the significant effects that life estates can have on your estate plan, including the possibility of losing control of your estate. Call 866-848-5699 and get your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request the guide online from their website, LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Mike Armstrong and Paul Lane. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Mike Armstrong and Paul Lane.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Financial Exchange. We've got a pretty strong sell-off occurring in equities this morning after two solid days of returns on Friday of last week and Monday of this week. NASDAQ currently off a little more than 2%, 366 points. S&P off 1.25 or 70 points. Dow off 300 points or about 0.7%. We'll keep you updated as the show goes on if there's any change in that. But as we all know, since mid-February, been a pretty up and down market here. On Thursday of last week, we did reach correction territory with the S&P selling off and closing down more than 10% off its most recent high, and we've since bounced back, but are hovering in those ranges again today. Anything else catching your eyes in markets? I feel like the equity story is the one that's moving things today. In terms of interest rates, you do have the yield in the 10-year down slightly to 4.3%, but it's been as low as 4.2 recently. Oil prices moving a bit, but largely this is a equity market story more than anything else.
Yeah, nothing else that really stands out here.
Cheap Chinese cars are taking over roads from Brazil to South Africa, to our neighbor to the south in Mexico as well. And I think everybody's generally aware that companies like BYD are producing way more cars than they need for domestic consumption in China, and therefore being exported across the globe. And what I think is not terribly well known, because you can't buy one of these cars in the United States, is that it's not really getting a reputation as some junker Chinese car that you can buy. In fact, Ford CEO Jim Farley was interviewed last year about his experience driving specifically a Xiaomi SU7. He's had it in the United States for 6 months. They went and imported one of these cars to kind of get a sense for what it's like, and he's admitted that while he doesn't usually like talking about the competition, he's been driving the car for the last 6 months, and it is pretty far superior to anything that Ford, for example, had put together. I'm
shocked he would say that.
Where is the exact quote on his praise? I'd have to find the exact quote, but effectively saying that, look, not only is this an extremely low cost, the SU7 full-size sedan was sitting around $30,000, but it comes with their level 2 autopilot system, and very, very popular there. And so, he was not saying, hey, we give up. He was saying, hey, we need to learn from this and develop this and compete. But, man, they're having a tough time doing so. And you can imagine why, if you are Ford going down to Brazil and trying to sell your American-made vehicle there, when you're competing with the likes of China's very cheap vehicles, there's not many consumers there that are interested in buying the U.S. version.
I thought this is a really fascinating piece, because I do feel as if we are, as United States citizens, a little blind to what's going on here, just because it's not impacting us from a domestic market standpoint. Exports of Chinese vehicles to countries outside of their own were less than 1 million vehicles in 2020. Today it sits at 4.9 million, that was 2024. So a mere 4 years later, it's basically 5 times what it was in 2020. You have market share gains that are significant in South Africa, Turkey, and in Chile. They have about 1/3 market share. And now you can get these cars, Mike, for $25,000, $19,000. These are some of the sticker prices for these vehicles. And the other thing that stood out to me that I probably wouldn't have been able to guess from a percentage standpoint is we have this view here that the EV side of things, that China is just flooding the market with a bunch of EVs and providing a lot of competition to Tesla. But 80% of those exports were gas vehicles.
Right.
And it makes
some of them
sense.
hybrids.
Yeah, it makes sense. The infrastructure in other countries that I just listed off there is nowhere near where it is in the United States and some other European countries out there. So that's why it's more gas power geared. But just fascinating sort of the inroads that they've made. I always get kind of unsure on estimates of market share when you're going out 5 years, but they have estimated that right now China, outside of its own market, has 3% global market share, and that's to increase to 13% according to S&P Global Mobility through the last quarter of 2024. It's pretty significant, the growth that they've seen.
Other news out just, I think this was yesterday, in fact, and Tesla's stock, I think, sank. Did you see Tesla stock yesterday, Tucker? I think it was off some 5% yesterday in trade.
Today it's down
5%
5 today.
Okay.
Yesterday it was down as well.
So BYD, one of those largest Chinese automakers, maybe the largest Chinese automaker, has claimed that a new technology that they developed allows them to charge their batteries to a 250-mile range in a total of 5 minutes.
Yep. Just for basis of comparison, Tesla's most recent supercharger would be about 15 minutes for
the same level of charge.
Same level.
And that's Tesla's very newest batteries and very newest charging system. Not something that's 3 years old here. Granted, neither is BYD's. Like the DeepSeek piece a few weeks ago, if this ends up being true, it's potentially revolutionary in a way that we haven't thought of before. Again, they haven't made any claims about how much it costs them to develop this, whether or not it is repeatable, how widespread it could be. But again, if you can get a battery to charge 250 miles in a sum total of 5 minutes, and you can actually repeat that and scale it and roll out the charging devices across a developed nation, changes the game for me, personally.
Yep, definitely.
I'll spend 5 minutes at a charging station if that's all it takes. 15 minutes is a bit of quite a different story, right? If I've got to sit there for 15 minutes with my entire family on a road trip and wait for that thing to charge up even just to 250 miles, when in reality, if I'm making a road trip across the country, I probably want it to be at 400 miles. 15 minutes to get to 250 is a non-starter, quite honestly.
Even for my morning commute, forget the family trip. We're such creatures of habit and routine that I'm not going to leave out the door 15 minutes early to account for charging. That is the biggest uphill climb that you have.
But the morning commute, like my view is, look, the morning commute can be dealt with because you've got a charging platform right down in the basement here at your office where you can get there. So long as you did a little bit of planning ahead of time, I've got a 20-mile charge, I can get down to the office and I'm good.
Yep.
This is different, right? This is, for me, the main reason that I wouldn't make an EV my primary vehicle, it's that range anxiety.
Yeah.
It's that fact that, hey, if I get on the road here and I'm trying to drive from Boston to Chicago, I'm going to be stopping every once in a while for a half an hour to charge this thing up.
Gotcha.
If BYD has come up with a technology, and this is, again, big if, but if they have revolutionized a technology that does allow me to cut that charging time, if you're at 250 miles in 5 minutes, let's say that you're at, it's probably not scalable. It's probably not a one-for-one equation here where it gets to 500 miles in 10 minutes. But let's say you're getting to 400 miles in 10 minutes. That's a fairly big game changer when it comes to our understanding of how this technology works today, and would suddenly make wider spread EV adoption, I think, more attractive to a lot of, forget about U.S. consumers, just globally consumers across the board here. If this was accessible, I think this would really change the game for a lot of folks.
That and the infrastructure piece, we've talked about that before, but it's got to be then incorporated, and that's still, you're looking at a long way.
Right, and that's the big question too, right? Like, okay, you've got the technology in the car that allows it to receive a charge that quickly, but if you don't have the infrastructure on the other side that delivers that amount of electricity in such a quick order, and you probably have electricians and engineers here who are just cringing at the way I'm describing this, then it's a non-starter, because if I don't have the charging infrastructure to do it, then it doesn't make any difference. But to me, again, the real problem wasn't the range of the batteries for me. It was the fact that I couldn't charge them in a reasonable amount of time. If I can, that changes pretty much all of the equation. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, a little bit of trivia here next on the Financial Exchange.
There's only one show that follows Wall Street's continued volatility. Keep it here all morning long on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Life estates are complicated, and they can cause problems if you're using them to protect your assets from the nursing home. Don't risk losing control over your estate. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and get their new guide called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online from their website, legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, I'm Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and soldiers' homes, and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for both single veterans and those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Developing the right financial strategy can be complicated, especially in today's economic climate. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. One of the most important pieces to this puzzle is the trust you have with the advisor you choose to work with. We've written a brand new guide called What Can an Advisor Do for Me? In it, we discuss a host of reasons why picking the right one can be critical to your peace of mind as you age. A financial advisor is much more than someone who simply manages your money. A financial advisor can help you understand the strengths and weaknesses of your portfolio, the various changes you may need to make to achieve your goals, and the way you may be able to protect your assets as you enter your retirement years. Call us right now at 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide today. That number again is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
If you're looking for the perfect place for your next vacation, look no further than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act fast and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Voted one of the top 2025 Caribbean destinations by U.S. News and World Report, America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
Heads up, athletes, coaches, and parents. Play for life, not just points. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, or HCM, is the leading cause of sudden cardiac death, especially in black athletes in sports like football or basketball. If you feel shortness of breath, chest pain, and fatigue, or have a family history of HCM, talk to your doctor. Don't let HCM bend you for good. Learn how to stay in the game at heart.org/HCM student athlete. Your heart, your health, your move.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, the grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Like our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Time for trivia here on the Financial Exchange. Last year, 1.86 million new cars were sold in Canada, which beat the pre-pandemic average of 1.82 million. The best-selling car brand in Canada has held the top spot for the past 16 years. Trivia question today: what was the best-selling car brand in Canada? Once again, what was the best-selling car brand in Canada? Be the fourth person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, and you win a brand new Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the fourth correct response to text us at 617-362-1385 will be our winner. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
A couple pieces of breaking news. One, German parliament just passed a historic debt reform. It will allow them to change a major law that they had in place when it comes to debt policies. It allowed them to have higher defense spending and a 500 billion euro infrastructure and climate fund. So kind of been waiting on some of those Eurozone reforms to come to play here, and largely this just speaks to Germany's going to be running a much bigger deficit than they were previously in order to fund these programs and attempt to boost growth. They were pretty much in a recession, kind of like a technical recession that we saw in the U.S. back in 2022, but worse over the course of the last few years, and that's not really why they did this. Why they're talking about doing this is largely under pressure from the Trump administration, I believe, to boost defense spending.
Right. It's important to point out that from a spending perspective, Germany is basically on the polar opposite side of the United States. We talked earlier in the show how we've been spending like it's going out of style. Germany has often been very fiscally conservative, so that's why it is very noteworthy from a policy standpoint. They do not run the types of deficits that we do here domestically.
On the economic data front, at 8:30 a.m., we received some housing data. Housing starts came in at 1.5 million for the month of February. That was a big up compared to the 1.35 million back in January, and economist estimates of 1.38 million according to Market Watch. And then building permits came in right in line, 1.46 million. That's down slightly from 1.47 in January, and 1.45 beating expectations. That's where expectations were. So again, that's slightly good news on the housing data. It's not going to fix the affordability crisis we've been dealing with, but you don't want to see a miss on the permits and the starts numbers when it comes to home building in the United States. Wall Street Journal exclusive, a secret mortgage blacklist leaving homeowners stuck with unsellable condos. So who is blacklisting this are a couple of government or quasi-government agencies, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Paul, what are they focusing on? Why are they blacklisting condo associations and homeowners? And what does it actually mean for buyers and sellers out there?
Basically, it all stems back to what occurred back in 2021 in Florida, where a Surfside condo collapsed, killing 98 people. And really what was found at the root of those issues was a lack of structural improvements over the course of many years with that particular building. And as a result of that, what you've seen is a huge change in the lending industry, where they are now looking, Fannie Mae specifically, at any condo associations out there that don't have adequate property insurance and are not making critical building repairs, and then they're putting them on a blacklist. So there's instances in here, examples where condos were being sold. One in particular that's highlighted is in Ventura County, California, back in December, ready to make a sale of a 440-unit townhouse condo facility, and the purchaser said, we have to back out. The lender pulled the funding, and there is no ability for us to get any kind of debt financing in order to facilitate this purchase. So a huge ripple effect from that incident back in 2021 that's occurring here that's wider spread. This is, I'm highlighting a story in California, but there are over, I believe it was 1,400 developments in Florida that have been blacklisted as well, and this is all across the country.
Yeah, so Florida is a big one here. In particular, they passed a law after that Surfside condo collapse requiring engineering inspections of those buildings and improvements to be made to them. So it's pretty easy for Fannie and Freddie. They don't need to actually go and do inspections. They just say, hey, if you're in violation of the Florida law, we're not buying your mortgages. And that's what Fannie and Freddie do, is they don't issue mortgages. They just go to the banks and say, yeah, we'll take those. And so if Wells Fargo can't sell their mortgage to Fannie and Freddie, then guess what? Not going to get issued in the first place. The other piece would just be that insurers, obviously, if you haven't noticed, have been driving prices through the roof, especially if you are in areas prone to disaster like California, like Hawaii, like Florida. And so the reaction on the part of both homeowners and association owners has been, look, we're just going to take the lower coverage amount, or we're going to have a higher deductible. We're going to do something to keep this policy affordable for all of our owners. And that's probably the direction that the condo association and owners themselves have voted. Because if I'm an owner in there without a mortgage and I've been there for 20 years and I want to be there for another 20, I'm not really worried about the resale value. I'm much more worried about the ongoing cost of maintaining this property. I might be willing to say, yeah, look, if disaster strikes, I'll be willing to shell out an extra $7,000 to fix this place because our deductible is so high. Unfortunately, for those that are in a different position, the government is saying, look, that's all well and good, but if you actually do get hit by a disaster, there's going to be too many people that don't shell out the money, and then we're left holding the bag, right, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, on this property that doesn't have adequate insurance, and so they're just saying, no, we won't buy them. Back in 2021, there were allegedly a few dozen condo associations across the country that were susceptible to this. The numbers that they're talking about now, I was trying to find the actual piece on this. Yeah, the number of properties that fail to meet Fannie Mae's standards has risen now to 5,175 this month from just a few hundred before Surfside. So when we talk about properties that fail to meet the standards, they're saying that there are 5,175 condo associations that don't meet the standard, meaning the number of buildings that don't, I'm guessing somewhere on average 20x that number.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy and one of the kind of not thought about downstream effects of this whole insurance market shakeup is, hey, yeah, it is leaving a whole bunch of people inadequately covered. And if you're buying a single family home, it might not really be a problem because you get to decide what type of insurance you have and your mortgage broker will determine that. If you're buying into an association, very different story. You don't control the master insurance policy. The condo board controls that. And I don't envy that job right now. They've been trying to navigate these ongoing costs of higher electricity, higher everything. And one of those ways of, fending off those changes was, hey, we're going to take a, quite frankly, worse, insurance policy. And now, not only are they covered by worse insurance, but they're actually finding that, in some cases, sales of properties can't go through because of the bad insurance.
Some of these quotes on new policies, this one in California here, just incredible, the pricing on it. For the Homeowners Association, this is for the 440-unit townhouse one that I was speaking in Ventura County, California. They were quoted a $2.6 million a year Homeowners Association Fannie-compliant policy, 10 times their current rate.
10x.
Wow. So that would mean your monthly homeowner fees would go up from $570 at Shadow Ridge to $1,100 or even more.
Yeah. So look, plenty of people have been experiencing this, and it speaks to, especially for Boston and New England folks in general, it's the Florida experience that they've been talking about. Is, hey, 10 years ago this was way cheaper to move here. Go talk to folks now. Save on taxes.
Yeah, then you have to get your roof redone.
Not a whole lot else.
All sorts of other stuff. Yeah.
Quick break. We'll have the trivia winner when we come back on the Financial Exchange.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Life estates carry a higher risk of income tax penalties and hidden gift issues. And while they can be beneficial in some cases, if you use one, you need to be aware of the pitfalls they may cause. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law and have nearly 40 years of experience helping families with their estate planning. Their new guide, called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates, can help you make the right decisions about how to protect your assets from probate and the nursing home. Life estates are not simple documents and can create the potential for you to lose control of your estate. So if you haven't done your planning yet, now's the time to learn about the effects that life estates can have when it comes to protecting your assets. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and request their new guide called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates. That's 866-848-5699. Or request the guide online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. If you're looking for the perfect place for your next vacation, look no further than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act fast and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th, 2025. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Voted one of the top 2025 Caribbean destinations by U.S. News and World Report, America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
Managing money can be overwhelming. Investments, retirement, taxes, where do you even start? This is Susan Powers, and today I'm joined by Michael Armstrong, co-host of the Financial Exchange and the president of Armstrong Advisory Group, to break it down. First question, Mike. What's the biggest reason someone should work with a financial advisor?
Yeah, it's a fair question. Like, a financial advisor can help you set and reach financial goals, whether that's saving for retirement, buying a home, protecting your estate. They can create personalized strategies that align with your income and expenses and risk tolerance. Plus, financial planning just isn't one and done. Typically you'll adjust your plan as life changes. And so having somebody that's knowledgeable alongside there that can guide you through those different stages of life is really important.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Now, what about people who think that they can manage their finances and investments on their own? What do they miss out on?
Look, I'm not blind to this. Some people can, and it requires a bit of an honest self-assessment. But if you're not looking at key factors like tax strategies, investment risk, long-term planning, those are areas where financial advisors can really help to come in, maximize returns while keeping an eye on risk-adjusted returns, optimizing asset allocation, and just minimizing those unnecessary risks that we see so frequently taken by folks. So there can be a place for one in people's lives, but it's not a one for everybody.
If you want professional financial guidance, reach out to the Armstrong Advisory Group today to request your free copy of our new guide, What Can a Financial Advisor Do for Me? Call 800-393-4001 to start securing your financial future. That number again, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Text us 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show, and let us know what you think about the stories we're covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, trivia question today was, what is the best-selling car brand in Canada? That would be Ford. Ed from Falmouth is our winner today, taking home a brand new Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Congrats to Ed. We play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Not for long. Booing the national anthem. They're going to be all driving Toyotas in the next few months here. Consumers are spending less. What that means for the global economy.
Not good.
Bad? Like, what are we really talking about here, folks? The only piece of this that I would debate would be whether or not consumers are indeed spending less. There are a few pieces that they point to here to say that they might be. The latest retail sales report did miss the mark. That was on Monday of this week. Came in quite a bit lower than anticipation. Sales rose by 0.2% in February compared to January. January was revised further down, so it was overall a bad retail sales report. And yes, if consumers spend a whole bunch less, then not only the U.S. economy, but many others out there will have some troubles. Why I call this, like, for anybody listening, but like, it kind of would make sense for consumer spending to be dropping off right now. You're seeing people saying that they're less confident about the job market, about the economy, about inflation, a whole bunch of different items. However, what we historically see is that consumer spending is like the last shoe to drop in a recession. It is not as though it downturns ahead of the time. It's not as though consumer spending has ever caused a recession. It's usually been something else that blows up asset values, a bubble of some sort in the tech space or in mortgages in 2008, or a global pandemic requiring you to stay at home for a period of time that kills the spending. It's not the consumer spending that leads into the recession. And so maybe it does this time, but I'm just always suspect when somebody tells me that it's all going to be different this time and we're going to have a consumer-led recession. Like, generally speaking, what happens is the consumer continues to spend, puts money on their credit card until that literal credit card gets rejected.
I'm not sure I'm willing to go that far on it. I mean, the idea of it not being a leading indicator, I get that from a historical perspective, but really if you look at what has buoyed the economy over the course of the last couple of years, it has been consumer spending. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it wouldn't be concerning for that trend to reverse itself. What I would say, though, is many of these pieces, and we've covered them ad nauseum for the last couple of weeks, there has been minimal hard data that leads me to be fully assured that consumer spending is really taking a significant hit. Obviously, these two retail sales reports were not tremendous by any means, and you have had anecdotal evidence from Dick's Sporting Goods and airliners out there that consumer spending has lessened, but I'm waiting to see more information before I get fully concerned on that front. But if that is trending the case, Mike, then I wouldn't say that it wouldn't be an area of concern if it continues to persist like this and we get more hard data.
I'll play devil's advocate to my own argument here for a moment as well, just to join you, Paul. The wealth inequality effect here, where today the top 10% of income earners represent 50% of total spending.
That blew me away.
One, that's higher than it's ever been.
Yep.
So, that is a higher concentration that you're seeing amongst the, more wealthy. And second piece to that, you're seeing asset values drop precipitously right now. And so if that wealth effect that really benefited consumer spending in 23 and 24 suddenly detracts in 25 in a way that's more meaningful than it was in 2008 because of that wealth distribution, okay, I'll buy it as a theory. Like I said, I'm always hesitant to believe that a trend is going to completely reverse itself. And, as an example here, you didn't see retail sales really bottom until March of 2009 in the Great Recession. They were down like 13% year over year in 2009. It was really bad. But that was not the beginning of the recession, right? The beginning of the recession started in late 2007. Consumer spending didn't bottom until March of 2009. So,
but we're not talking about 13% drop would be really bad. We're looking for the early signs of a decline in spending.
Yep. So again, I'll remain open to the idea, but historically, it's not how it's worked.
If you're looking for the perfect place for your next vacation, look no further than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Act fast and take advantage of a special promotion to St. Croix. Experience a vibe like no other and receive a $250 per person airfare credit and a free hotel night when you book a 5-night minimum stay with any participating hotel before June 30th. St. Croix is known for its incredible history and spectacular architecture, along with world-class cuisine, incredible golf courses, and a wide variety of water sports. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Voted one of the top 2025 Caribbean destinations by U.S. News and World Report, America's Caribbean Paradise is waiting for you. Experience a vibe like no other on the island of St. Croix. Go to visitusvi.com and use the code VIBE2025 for more information and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com and code VIBE2025.
Buying the dip is a big term in financial markets, and you might have seen a little bit of that on Friday and Monday of last week and this week when markets hit correction territory, and we saw a little bit of a short-term boost there. The problem with the buy the dip theory is it's always tough to tell how much of a dip it's going to be, and nobody really enjoys buying the dip when it's down 10% and then seeing it go down another 20 from there. There is another way you can use that buy the dip mentality, though. And MarketWatch has a piece today about Roth conversions. And I want to talk about what they are, just for anyone that's listening that doesn't understand how they work. But in my mind, using that same buy the dip mentality, you can be a lot more certain about it, because I might not know what markets are going to do in any given year, but I have a pretty good sense of what my tax situation is going to look like in any given year. And so if I use that same buy the dip mentality to say, hey, take advantage of a cheaper tax bracket rather than a cheaper stock market, I think that's where people can actually be pretty successful. So start us off, Paul. Who's eligible to do a Roth conversion? How do just baseline, like how do Roth conversions work?
Yeah, so basically anyone is eligible to do a Roth conversion. There is no restriction there on income limitations or ages or anything like that. However, you do have to be cognizant that you are going to pay taxes on the money that you convert. So if someone has an IRA account out there that's $100,000, for example, what you're able to do when you convert money is you take money from an IRA, let's say 10 grand in this hypothetical example, and you move it over to your Roth IRA account. That $10,000 will be added to your taxable income in the year that you execute that conversion. So if you do it today in March of 2025, then 10 grand gets added to your income. The benefit from doing that is you pay the taxes on the $10,000 that you've converted, but the 10 grand you've put into the Roth never is taxed again. It can grow entirely tax-free. So it can be advantageous if you are able to do it when markets are down, because again, back to this hypothetical example, if your IRA started the year at $100,000 and we dropped 20% and it's down to 80 grand at the end of the year, and you take out some money and convert it at that point in time, you're taking out money and paying taxes on a dollar value that is lesser with the hopes that it will recover back.
Yeah, that's the important caveat, is you're paying the taxes on the value of the securities that you convert on the day you convert them.
Right.
Right? So if you're converting something that's down by 30% and you think it might come back someday, then, it can be a good deal. Obviously, not always guaranteed to happen that way. So for most folks, what I find is that the Roth conversion, like age where it does make some sense, is usually after I retire, before my RMDs start.
That's one area of a sweet spot, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, there can be others, like maybe you're, for whatever reason, having a down year in terms of income, but have a lot saved. Yep. There can be opportunities there. Maybe, it's a married couple and one of them retires. But generally speaking, as a rule of thumb, that's what I start to look at when it comes to Roth conversions, is that key period of, okay, I'm done working. I'm not old enough to have RMD start yet, and I've got this kind of dip in my tax rate. What can I do to take advantage of it?
Or a younger person, it's worth exploring too, depending on your income level at that point in time. Yep. If you find that here, the other thing with a younger person is that you have a much longer runway to make up that differential. So yeah, you have to pay the tax now at 20 or 25%. But if you're in your 30s, you have, 30 more years plus to let that grow and make up that differential there.
Quick break. When we come back, Stack Roulette here on the Financial Exchange.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Like us on YouTube and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Developing the right financial strategy can be complicated, especially in today's economic climate. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. One of the most important pieces to this puzzle is the trust you have with the advisor you choose to work with. We've written a brand new guide called What Can an Advisor Do for Me? In it, we discuss a host of reasons why picking the right one can be critical to your peace of mind as you age. A financial advisor is much more than someone who simply manages your money. A financial advisor can help you understand the strengths and weaknesses of your portfolio, the various changes you may need to make to achieve your goals, and the way you may be able to protect your assets as you enter your retirement years. Call us right now at 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide today. That number again is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Life estates carry a higher risk of income tax penalties and hidden gift issues. And while they can be beneficial in some cases, if you use one, you need to be aware of the pitfalls they may cause. Cushing & Dolan are experts in elder law and have nearly 40 years of experience helping families with their estate planning.
Their new guide, called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates, can help you make the right decisions about how to protect your assets from probate and the nursing home. Life estates are not simple documents and can create the potential for you to lose control of your estate. So if you haven't done your planning yet, now's the time to learn about the effects that life estates can have when it comes to protecting your assets. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and request their new guide called Calculating the Consequences of Life Estates. That's 866-848-5699. Or request the guide online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
The Financial Exchange Show podcast drops every day on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. You're listening to the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Time for a bit of stack roulette. I guess I'll kick things off with tariff talk. So there's some statements from the American Winemakers Association about tariffs and what they could mean. And there's a talk about a 200% tariff on imports from wines from Europe. And I think the general conclusion from the U.S. wine industry actually is that it would probably benefit them to be, the only one left in the game when it comes to domestic wine sales because frankly, just because the market is so big in the United States. That having been said, if you weren't aware, winemakers in the U.S. and globally are just facing a fair number of challenges. One would be the environmental challenges of a hotter climate is kind of shifting where the wine growing regions are and what types of grapes can be grown in those regions, wildfires, other issues. Two is just the seeming backlash against alcohol from the younger generation in general. Wine is falling into this bucket. I feel like growing up in my drinking age, there was always that story like, glass of wine a day is actually good for your health, which has been largely disproven by a whole bunch of folks, and a growing segment of people who are just saying, I'm not drinking alcohol at all, or if I am, I'm drinking a fair bit less of it, seems to actually be making a dent in their businesses. I think it's that combined with a constantly changing preference when it comes to alcohol, right? This trending in alcohol has just been shifting more rapidly as of late between hard alcohol and seltzers and mocktails and IPAs, and it's just a much faster pace than I think it was a few decades ago. So most winemakers saying yes, we wouldn't have too much of a problem with these tariffs in place, but might not reverse the course of their overall business, which has been a general downtrend, which is good for the wine drinkers and lovers in the room. Raising my hand here as somebody that will gladly pick up the excess supply.
Yeah, Chuck and I had debated a little bit on the show on the proposed tariffs on winemakers that we had read some negative feedback on those potential tariffs on European wines, just because those are the higher margin wines for a lot of domestic sellers here that's able to subsidize.
Yeah, different story of, hey, if you are a restaurant or if you are a wine distributor, you would hate this idea.
Right.
If you're a domestic wine producer.
Oh, okay, I got you. That's where you're coming at it from. Okay.
Yeah, if you're out in Napa, creating the next barrel of wine, then tariffs are sounding pretty good. You're right. If you are Constellation Brands or if you are one of the major companies that actually plays in this space, a wine distributor across the Eastern Seaboard, tariffs are going to suck. You're not going to be terribly happy about that. And if you're the restaurant owner, you're also not going to be terribly happy about that. But again, it seems my piece would be, look, if we're going to have tariffs on Canada and Mexico, we're almost certainly going to have tariffs on European wines, would be my guess.
No, the consumption point is another great one. My wife and I were talking about that this weekend. It just seems like there's a generational shift between ourselves and the younger generation of alcohol consumption. It's been backed up numerically, whether you look at wine sales, beer sales. I don't know if that's cannabis use more nationally that occurs with the younger generation. I don't really understand it, but there's been anecdotal pieces that we've covered on the show with bars in college towns, which are the perfect sort of stasis establishment that just see that people aren't staying out as late, aren't spending as much. So I'm not sure what it all comes down to, but there does seem to be a shift.
And we did see trends in alcohol consumption among millennials when they were younger too, right? This was a trend that played out there too, where millennials when they were in their 20s were not drinking the same. By the time they're in their late 20s, they weren't picking up wine consumption really. They were sticking with beers and other types of beverages, but it wasn't a shift away from alcohol entirely.
No,
it was a shift of preference from, hey, typically the generation before went from drinking Coors Light and Bud Light to drinking wine. And the younger generation didn't really make
so
that
much more
shift.
fragmented.
They went from Coors Light to a number of different microbreweries and then to a bunch of,
canned cocktails
and seltzers and just a different type of trend than the typical from the generation before of, as time goes on, I'm drinking fewer 30 packs of Coors Light and more bottles of wine. And this next generation, like Paul mentioned, it's not that trend. It's not that they're going from one type of alcohol to another. It's that they're going from one type of alcohol to really nothing or a lot less alcohol.
Good for them. March Madness is coming up on Thursday, and X, formerly known as Twitter, and Uber Eats are launching a March Madness Perfect Bracket Challenge. The winner gets a trip to Mars. Maybe we could offer something like that.
Is that a promise or a threat?
Mike, can I get your approval to offer
one-way trip to Mars if you win this bracket?
I
feel like Elon's threatening me.
We should just throw that out there as a trivia prize for this month because the reason I say this, and maybe Mike...
Not exactly going to deliver on that one, are you?
Mike, the reason you can greenlight this for me as head of the company is that there is a 1 in 9.2 quintillion chance of picking a perfect bracket challenge. If you just go by the coin flip, aspect of things, there's 63 games in the March Madness tournament that's going to begin on Thursday. If you just went 50-50 probability on each of those, that would be your odds. Allegedly, according to research, that if you know something about college basketball, your odds are a lot better. Only a 1 in 120 billion chance. But anyway, funny here. Great marketing ploy. I mean, they got me to talk about it. The odds, like I said, are very long of a perfect bracket. Buffett's been on this for years, offering $1 billion grand prize for a perfect bracket. No, that's $1 million for each company employee for a year. He used to do just $1 billion flat out to one person if they could do it for a perfect bracket. I mean, he's willing to throw out those numbers. The guy is not stupid. He knows the odds behind it. But the funny thing is with this prize, trip to Mars is one of the things that's mentioned. They have some other offerings that you could pick to, and the one that drove me crazy is imagine you actually hit this, and one of the choices is sending a personal item of choice to space on Falcon 9 launch. Okay, you could get $250,000 or put a personal item in a spaceship. I wonder which one I'll go with.
All right, so let's just think about this for a moment. If you put something on auction that was sent into space that was a really cool item, could you fetch more than $250,000?
Ooh.
Hey, this picture of Elon Musk signed has been sent to space and then came back and did not burn up on re-entry.
Interesting.
I think there's a way to play that.
Counterpoint.
I think there's a way to play that. That said, I'm just not taking you up on the trip to Mars because I genuinely don't think I'm coming back if I do that.
Well, another story we had in here is those poor
It did
people
not say return trip to Mars.
Those people on here who
round trip? No. It was just a trip to Mars.
We're just going to leave you there.
Markets remain strongly in negative territory. NASDAQ leading the way down off 335 points, 1 9/10%. S&P off 1 1/3. Dow Jones Industrial Average now off 9/10%. We've got a Fed meeting tomorrow. We'll keep you covered on markets and their reaction to all that and more the rest of this week on the Financial Exchange. Have a great day. Great day.